So, how does a new idea really take over the world? You might think it's all about big money or flashy marketing, but a really cool new study suggests there's a more powerful, kind of hidden force at play: our friendships. We're going to break down how the friends you have literally shaped the spread of one of the biggest tech revolutions of our time: online banking.
Seriously, think about it for a second. When was the first time you checked your account balance or zapped some money to a friend without ever having to walk into an actual bank?
For most of us, it's just normal now. It's so second nature, it's kind of hard to even remember what it was like before. It just feels like it's always been there, right?
But here's the thing. How this tech actually took hold across the country wasn't simple at all. It was a real puzzle, and the key to solving it wasn't found in spreadsheets or economic reports, but in our social circles.
Okay, so let's dig into this puzzle. How did online banking go from this niche, kind of nerdy service to something we all just do? You're about to see that the path it took was way weirder than you think.
Now, if you look at the big picture, the story seems pretty straightforward. The growth was crazy fast. Back in 2003, only about half the banks in the US were online. But fast forward just 7 years to 2010 and boom, pretty much all of them were. That's a massive shift in a super short amount of time.
But this is where it gets interesting. When you zoom in on the map from those early days, the picture is, well, it's all over the place. In 2003, yeah, the Northeast was highly connected. Some states over 90%. But then you look at huge chunks of the Midwest and the South, and they were lagging way behind. It wasn't a smooth rollout at all. It was patchy. And the question is, why?
So, to figure this out, researchers had to start by ruling out all the obvious answers. The usual suspects you'd think of for why a new technology spreads.
And you know what I'm talking about. Did online banking just pop up in wealthier areas first? Or maybe in big cities where there are more people? What about the local economy? Or maybe just places that already had great internet? Or heck, maybe it was just about physical distance. All of those seem like they'd make sense, right?
Well, it turns out all those things were a part of the story, but just a small part. After the researchers accounted for all of those factors, they still couldn't explain that strange, splotchy map of adoption. The data was screaming that some other invisible force was really pulling the strings.
And this is where we get to the study's secret weapon. The researchers got access to this absolutely revolutionary set of data that let them, for the first time ever, map the entire social fabric of the United States.
It's called the Social Connectedness Index, or SCI. And what it does is, using totally anonymous Facebook data, it measures how likely it is that a person in one county is friends with someone in any other county. It's literally a map of America's friendships, showing us which communities are super tightly connected, even if they're 1,000 miles apart.
Now, with that friendship map, they could figure out something called eigenvector centrality for every single county. It's a fancy term, but it's a brilliant way to measure influence. Here's the simple way to think about it. It's not just about how many friends you have, it's about how well connected your friends are. It's way more powerful to be friends with a major social hub than with a bunch of places nobody's connected to.
Okay, so this is how they cracked the case. They had this incredible map of friendships, and they had a way to measure social influence. Now they could finally test their big idea, that online banking didn't spread based on geography, but from friend to friend.
And their method was so clever. First, they found the hotspots. These were the super influential counties that had also jumped on online banking really early, the trendsetters. Then, for every other county in America, they calculated what they called a connection share. Basically, what percentage of their friendships were with people in those hotspots. And finally, they asked the million-dollar question. If you had more friends in a hotspot, did that predict that your local banks would get on board sooner?
The answer was a huge, unmistakable yes. The data was crystal clear. A significant jump in a county's social connection to those early adopter hotspots led to a 6.11% increase in its own local banks adopting the technology. That right there was the smoking gun.
The researchers call this social contagion. The idea itself and the trust in that idea was literally spreading through these invisible social networks, hopping from county to county across the country. This wasn't a story about banks pushing a new product. This was about real people hearing about it from their friends, and then creating the demand from the ground up.
So this brings us to the really big idea here. Why is our network of friends so incredibly powerful? Why can a recommendation from a buddy sometimes blow a multi-million-dollar ad campaign out of the water, especially when an idea is brand new? Well, the study points to this critical difference between public and private information. Public info is everything else: ads, news reports, stuff like that. But private information,
That's the word of mouth from someone you actually trust. And that's what's crucial when an idea is new and, frankly, a little uncertain. I mean, think about it. Back in 2003, putting your bank account online felt risky. A TV ad can't really soothe that fear. But a friend saying, hey, I do this, it's totally safe, and it's a game changer, that changes everything.
And that's exactly what the study found. As the quote says, the power of these friendship networks was strongest in those early uncertain days. Later on, as online banking became totally normal and everyone was talking about it, you didn't need your friend to convince you anymore. That private channel just isn't as critical once the cat's out of the bag.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. This whole thing, it's not really just a story about banking. It's a story about how change happens, how new ideas actually move through the world. So take a second to think, what's the next big thing that's spreading through your network right now? A new piece of tech, a new way to invest, a new way of working? The answer to that question might just be a little glimpse into the future.